Welcome to Wealth Lab. Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning with absolutely nowhere to be, except exactly where you want to be. Sounds like the ultimate dream, right? Walking away from the 9 to 5 hustle in your 30s or 40s while everyone else is literally still stuck in rush hour traffic? Well, today we're diving deep into the reality behind that dream.
But let me ask you, do you think retiring decades early is actually possible for ordinary people? Look, if you're highly skeptical, you have every right to be. We always hear these crazy stories of tech founders cashing out. But what about the rest of us? The math always sounds so incredibly easy on a spreadsheet. But real life? Yeah, real life is messy. Jobs end, roofs leak, and stock markets crash. So today, we're going to look at the whole picture. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, what FIRE actually is, then the simple math, the different types, the hidden leaks, the identity crisis, and finally, whether it's actually realistic for you.
All right, section 1, what FIRE actually is. Let's set the baseline. FIRE stands for financial independence, retire early. Stripped of all the hype, it's just the core goal of saving and investing enough money so you never have to rely on a traditional job again. Now, to be clear, this is absolutely not a get-rich-quick pitch. It's about aggressively saving your income, investing it wisely, and hitting a point where your money earns enough passive income to cover your living expenses. Forever. Moving right along to section 2, the simple math behind FIRE. And I promise the mechanics here are way simpler than you might think. It basically all revolves around something called the 25x rule. This is kind of the golden number in the FIRE community. The rule simply states that you need to save and invest 25 times your annual expenses to achieve true financial independence. And notice I said your expenses, not your income. The whole thing is entirely based on what you actually spend to live. So how do you actually use that money once you've saved it? Well, that brings us to the 4% rule. This is your safe withdrawal rate. The idea here is that if you only withdraw 4% of your total investment portfolio each year, theoretically, your money should never run out. So let's use a super relatable example. Say you calculate that you want to spend $40,000 a year in retirement. You multiply that by 25, which means you'd need $1 million portfolio. 4% of $1 million is $40,000 a year. Pretty simple, right? Section 3, the different types of FIRE, because financial independence definitely isn't a rigid one-size-fits-all thing. There is actually a whole spectrum here. On one end, you have lean FIRE. This is extreme minimalism. These are folks living on very strict budgets, often in super low-cost areas, just to escape the rat race as fast as humanly possible. On the complete opposite end is fat FIRE. This is high-spending luxury. Think of those successful founders who sell their businesses and spend, $25,000 to $30,000 a month in early retirement on travel and multiple homes. And then right smack in the middle is barista FIRE. It's a hybrid approach. You save up a good chunk of money, but you still work a low-stress, part-time job, like maybe at a local coffee shop, just to cover your basic expenses and maybe snag some health insurance. If you're finding this valuable, please subscribe to Wealth Lab and share this video with your friends and family. It really helps us grow. All right, section 4, the hidden financial leaks. Because honestly, the math on a pristine spreadsheet doesn't always match the realities of life. Let's look at the dark side. 54%. That is the exact shocking percentage of Gen X early retirees who are eventually forced back to work in what people are now calling the Great Unretirement. They hit their number, they quit, and then a few years later, bam, they had to go back. But here's the thing, it wasn't always because of some massive stock market crash. It's usually death by 1,000 cuts. There are 5 invisible leaks that really drain early retirees. Number 1, digital subscription creep. All those apps and streaming services quietly taking a bite out of your budget every single month. Number 2, property repair inflation. Financial planners used to say, hey, save 1% of your home's value for repairs. Yeah, that rule is completely broken. Materials and labor cost way more now. Number 3 is multi-generational caregiving. You're the sandwich generation. You're paying to support adult kids who can't afford a home while also paying to care for aging parents. Number 4, the hedonic treadmill. You retire and think, hey, I earned this. So you buy a fancy car that just plummets in value. And 5, the health span deficit. The massive compounding cost of private healthcare and medical procedures as you age. Section 5, the psychological identity crisis. Because even if your finances somehow survive all that, your mind actually might not. Leaving the workforce takes a severe psychological toll.
This number is seriously staggering. 41% of retirees face moderate to severe identity disruption within their very first year. Think about it. For decades, when someone asked, "So, what do?" you had a quick answer. It gave you status, but when you stop working, that identity just evaporates. You suddenly have to figure out who you are without the doing, and that can create a really unexpected void.
This leads to a massive internal conflict. You hit financial independence, but then you get hit with one more year syndrome. This is where your spreadsheet says you're totally free, but fear completely takes over. You keep working just one more year to build a bigger safety net, driven entirely by the fear of running out of cash. And then there's the quiet pain of social isolation. Sure, you're free on a Wednesday at 10 a.m., but literally all your friends are stuck in meetings at work. It can feel incredibly lonely. Which brings us to Section 6. Is it realistic for you? Let's turn this into an honest assessment with some actual practical next steps.
Even if full-on early retirement isn't your goal right now, anybody can take these practical first steps toward financial independence. First, audit their spending, cut the dead weight, and stop that subscription creep. Second, create a dedicated sinking fund just for home repairs so you never get blindsided. Third, take a sabbatical. Data from the Harvard Business Review actually shows a mini retirement is the absolute best way to test drive this lifestyle. See how you really feel when you don't have an alarm clock yelling at you. And fourth, start building your identity outside of work right now. Have hobbies and a community to walk toward, not just a job to walk away from.
I want to leave you with this thought. The goal of financial independence was never to be alone, bored, or anxious in a paid-off house. It was to build a life on your own terms. You don't have to choose between burning out and doing absolutely nothing. Consider that middle path, kind of like barista fire. Find work you actually enjoy on your own schedule to keep you connected and purposeful. So ask yourself, are you just running away from a job you hate, or are you actually building a life you love? Thank you for joining us today. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Wealth Lab. We'll see you in the next one.